Hello, peace be with you all. My name is Chaiwat Satha-anand. I want to share with you some of my thoughts about peace and conflict. If you can see on your screen, it will say when conflict whispers. Now, what about peace? In my view, peace is about how to engage conflict constructively and to prevent conflict from sliding into violence. There are two parts in this that I want to underscore. The first point is that conflict is something natural. When you say, this is a conflict-free society, it doesn't fly in my book because we have different levels of conflict that we can talk about, which we will eventually. Peace is how you engage conflict constructively and to prevent conflict from sliding into violence, which means conflict and violence are two different things from two different worlds. And so our job as a peace workers is how to engage conflict in such a way that it would not turn into violence. So that's what peace is about. In order to do so, one has to understand conflict profoundly. And understand conflict, I wanted to talk about conflict in general, with some emphasis on transformation. I use 6 words as a guide in this talk. The first is tragedy. Second is thinking about conflict. The third is words. Fourth is theory. Fifth is prophet. And the last one is whisper. Let's begin with tragedy. And that I mean real tragedy. I'm talking about the ultimate Greek tragedy of Sophocles' Antigone. Antigone is a tragic story about a young girl, of course, in ancient Greek, whose uncle Creon was the despot. The word despot doesn't mean even dictatorship. It doesn't mean bad or anything like that. It's a power that is controlling the city. There's a war, a family war in a way. Antigone has 2 brothers. One is on one side of the war, the other one is on the other side of the war. In the end, both of them fought in the war and died in the process of fighting. Now, when they died, it is customary in ancient Greek that the honorable needs to be buried. The despicable needs to be left to be food of the vultures. So the problem with the situation there is that Antigone, since she is the sister of these 2 guys, Eteocles and Polynices, she has a dilemma between to bury her brother or to obey the law. Now, her uncle Creon passed the law saying that if anyone bury what her uncle had done is this, then he pick a body and then honor the dead in ceremonial death and bury, and left the other unto the elements. For Antigone, this is conduct unbecoming. She cannot live with that because she said this is her brothers. As a result of the fighting, you cannot tell who is who. The dead bodies were torn apart by so many things. She said what she would do is between to bury or to obey the law. Now, there are 2 versions, at least 2 versions of Antigone. One is, of course, the classic by Sophocles, Antigone, and the other one is Jean Anouilh, Antigone. That's in the 20th century French writer who rewrote Antigone at the advent of the Nazi attack of France. And so it was seen as a woman's voice against dictatorship or something like that, if you read Antigone that way. In Thai, one of the leading drama professor produced a play and she translated the word as Antrakani, which is such a nice rendition in Thai because Antara means in between and Akani means fire. So in between the fire. And so that's precisely captured the situation. But the interpretation caused a lot of problems. Even, wherever you go, if you use Jean Anouilh Antigone, then it is a celebration of a brave one against despotic and try to maintain the rights and freedom. And for Antrakani, again, when it came out in Thailand after democratic revolution of 2016, what happened then was a lot of debate about the story. I don't want to go there. But why I use Antigone? Because if you read Hegel lectures in the philosophy of religion, Hegel said the collision between the 2 highest moral powers is enacted in that absolute exemplar of tragedy that is Antigone. And this is Hegel vouched for this story. Now, if we go deep into the story a little bit, then I wanted to use it as a paradigmatic story about conflict. and conflict and its role in politics. What you see there is a contestation of ultimate source of authority. And in Antigone, you have different levels of conflict. You have the household and the city. In Greek, it's oikos and polis. Polis, of course, is politics. And if you read Politics of Aristotle, the first few chapters into book 1, Aristotle talk about oikos, household. And then conflict between men and women, conflict between nature and convention. Nature is family ties, convention is rule of the city. Human reason, logos, and sacred obligation, ancestral piety, or the contrast between Jerusalem and Athens, that we don't have time for that. I see that as a contestation between two paradigms of thinking that governs the world even today. A paradigm of faith, that is Jerusalem, and a paradigm of reason or philosophy, that is Athens. Here, I want you to see Creon in a new light. Creon is voice of the public legal authority as the city's police voice. Welfare of the city is the highest ethical obligation for Creon. And so for Creon, the quality of the good is inseparable from one's value to the city. It is therefore impossible to bury the traitor. Remember the story. Two brothers, leading two armies fighting against each other. Both of them die. Nobody can tell which bodies belong to which brother. But if you bury the traitor, that is to honor him, that would mean there's no difference between the good and the bad. And if there is no difference between the good and the bad, it will destroy the quality of the good that is the part of human value to the city. So police is about the city. I'm not talking about police, the force that guard the law and things like that. I'm talking about police, meaning the political society in Greek. For Antigone, that's Creon, her uncle, who's the despot, the ruler of the city. Antigone position is pre-political position, one would argue. The police as a theological political institution where the state is a religious community. This is interesting. You can ask yourself whether it resonates with today's society. To what degree does it resonate or not resonate to today's society? Individual liberty is unknown. Man was enslaved to the state through his soul, his body, and his property. That is the condition of the ancient city, Greek ancient city in particular. Now, Antigone's world is not the public sphere of reason, but a private world of nature and mystery. Two different things. Antigone takes the fact of blood and kinship to be more fundamental because they are natural, and therefore they are natural law. Whereas for the city, is the rule of the city, is the law of the city, that is the natural law. Now, Antigone believes that the family can exist without the city, but the city cannot exist without the family. Now, this is very important because those of us who are interested in rights and liberty, it is wise to think of the work of Michael Ignatius. Antigone believes that the family can exist without the city, but the city cannot exist without the family. And this is the contestation between the world of rights and liberty as universalists are talking about, and what Michael Ignatius called ordinary virtues, which is all over the world at the moment. Hegel said here, familial love, the holy, the inward, belonging to inner feeling, the law of the gods, collides with the right of the state. Creon is not in the wrong. Each of these two sides actualize only one of the ethical powers. Those of you who are in philosophy knows that the word actualization is very Hegelian. Yeah, the meaning of eternal justice is made manifest thus. Both attain injustice before they are one-sided, but both also attain justice. So within each side, you have injustice and justice at the same time. And this is why Hegel say genuine tragedies in the world are not conflicts between the right and the wrong. If the world is between the right and the wrong, and for us to choose is easy. But it is the conflict between two rights that makes it very difficult. That's what it means by tragedy. I just put on a few slides here. Okay, I go very quickly. Now, how to think about conflict? We go from tragedy to thinking. Yeah, we can think about conflict in different ways. Conflict as a social phenomenon, a general description. Conflict as a system. If you listen to people who say conflict is a system, my question is, what kind of a system are you talking about? You're talking about mechanistic system or organic system? Both are very different. A watch is a mechanistic system. A hand is an organismic system. Both are system, but very different. Conflict as commodity, political economy of conflict. Whenever you have conflict, people can profit or loss as a result of that conflict. So this is a commodity. That's why people can buy and sell conflict and make a living out of conflict in some cases. Conflict as a living organism. So when you think of conflict as a living organism, I'm inclined towards that approach. If you can talk about evolutions of conflict, you can talk about birth of conflict, you can talk about sickness of conflict, you can talk about death of conflict, you can talk about when conflict is reborn. It's a fascinating vision of conflict that you can think about. And then conflict as practices, and people will come and train you about techniques of conflict, organization, experts, evaluation steps, and what have you. Now, words. There's so many words that can be used about conflict in your language. I know you come from all societies in Southeast Asia, and you have different words for conflict if you do not use the English word, But in the English word, you have several words that embody conflict in itself. Frustration. Frustration is one person, one unrealized goal, and we have conflict. I am a Muslim. I am a person. Suppose I had not fasted during the Ramadan. The Ramadan just passed, and I did not fast. So maybe because I was sick or whatnot. So I was very frustrated. The truth is, I fasted. I continue to fast the additional 6 days today. This is the second day. Dilemma. Dilemma is one person, two incompatible goals. I have two things in my life that I want to do. I wanted to read my academic work, or I want to pray, for example. When I was younger, maybe I have two wonderful women in my heart, and I have to choose between the two. That's a dilemma. A career. You wanted to be a career. Someone want to be a politician. Someone want to be an academician. The dilemma. Dispute. Two persons, one scarce goal. People sometimes misunderstood that conflict is about people who want different things. A lot of time we find people who want the same thing, and that's why you have a conflict. And a lot of people call it a dispute. So two person, one scarce goal, and that's where you talk about conflict, dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolution, settling thing in court. Court decides between two persons or two groups of people and one goal. I'm staying in this part of land. I want this part of land, but the government said this part of land is national parks, so I cannot be there. So one scarce goal, two group of people dispute. Contradiction, incompatible goal states in a goal-seeking system. The case of Antigone is something like that, because the police has its own goal-seeking system, and of course the household, the family has its own goal-seeking system. So that we call that contradiction. And in our world, contradiction is very important. It's one of the most, I think, fascinating aspects. Now, if you think of the father of modern peace research, Johann Galtung, who's also my teacher, he has a conflict theory which he make it into a very simple thing. He said there are a triadic construct of ABC. For him, A is attitudes, but by attitudes he means assumption and bias. That's for him attitude. He knows, of course, all these terms are different, but he likes the acronym ABC. Is easy to understand. And so attitudes, assumption, and bias is A. Then behavior. Then content of the conflict. Contradictional content. That's why contradiction is important. That's Galtung. This is Chaiwat. My understanding of ABC of conflict, I transform it a little bit. As you can see, I rearrange it. I put behavior at the top, and then you have contradiction in the middle, and then you have attitudes at the deepest layer. So what I would say is that behavior is the layer of conflict where you can easily see. So it's manifested conflict, behavior. When the manifestation of conflict is not shown, it doesn't mean conflict is not there, because sometimes it's latent conflict. Here you have attitudes. Latent conflict is different because, you know, sometimes you don't like some people, you don't speak out. You disagree with him, you disagree with the policy, but you don't speak out. So the latent conflict is right there. What you see there is that you see behavior, which is a visible type of conflict, because it is manifested conflict. You don't see first attitude, but it's there, you know, it's internalized conflict, whereas behavior is externalized conflict. I put it in layers. What about contradiction? Contradiction to me is very important. Contradiction is about issues. Contradiction is what I use in my understanding of how to say when conflict is difficult or not difficult. Sometimes when conflict is not difficult to solve, you know, it's because contradiction is shallow. When contradiction is very deep, conflict will be difficult to solve. Example, two parties want a piece of land. If the problem is about the price of land, two group of people are talking the same thing, same language. The difference is the occupants say that they want a higher price, and the buyer or the one who wants the land say that they want a lower price. So the issue is about negotiation of the price of the land. If they can reach the compromise point, then they will agree that, okay, we will sell the land. The other will be happy to buy the land at certain price. That's easy. What is difficult? When conflict is deep. When the land is not a commodity, it's more than that. When the land is my inheritance, this land belongs to my ancestors. And by ancestors, I mean 200 years of this land. This land is also has a religious significance. Look, you will see the graveyards of my ancestor, my family who were buried here, you know, generations after generations. And look, this land was given to us because we fought in the, you know, 200 years ago, there's a war between us and the other society, and we fought to maintain this land. And the land was given to us by the king. And so it was both an honor, it was a mark of membership to the political society, it was a sacred place, it was my ancestral land. All this makes it very difficult because the contradiction is deep. And so it's not about the price of land anymore, it's something else. Now, conflict transformation. Conflict transformation begins by assuming that there is nothing sacred about the status quo. And this is important. Status quo could be the source and a source of conflict itself. A dictatorial regime, the type of constitutional regime that we have might be a source of the conflict itself. But if you say, is this sacred, then we cannot do anything about it, okay? Conflicts are due to contradiction in the structure of society. This is conflict transformation. Therefore, conflicts needs to be moved from unbalanced, that is asymmetric power relations, to a more balanced, that is symmetric power relations. So it's all about power. It's not only about conflict, it's all about power. From asymmetric power relations to a balance, a more balanced, asymmetric power relations. That is what conflict transformation is about. And it began in long times ago, but in 1970s, conflict are linked to deeper structure in society, both national and international. That's the work of Dieter Senghaus on conflict formation, and Kippendav on peace research and industrial revolution that talks about this. And then Adam Kerr in 1971 talks about restructure relationships so that conflict or alienation that had made it unpeaceful is eliminated and replaced by a collaboration that prevents it from recurring. That's you know, Senghaus and Kerr and others. Now, ways of transformation. When you talk about transformation, what are you talking about? Transform what? Four things: actor transformation, interchange between parties, you know, change the prime minister, actor transformation, issue transformation, alteration of agenda, modification of what conflict is about. This is not about who is the prime minister, who's not a prime minister. This is about authoritarianism in Thai society. That's issue. Okay, for example, rule transformation is affecting all the parties. That is the law or the rule. And then a structural transformation. We are talking about applying to inter-party relations. So there are different types of transformation that one can talk about, as you can see. And you can see the ease and the difficulty at each level, which is very different. Then what is conflict transformation? I say conflict transformation is about moving conflict. With an emphasis on transformation, it means conflict can be moved. So you're moving conflict. And then you're finding the best option for all. And then you take conflict parties outside of the present reality in order to do that. First, you have to understand that conflict can be moved. Second, your purpose is to find the best option for all. In order to do so, you take conflict parties outside of the present reality, which chain them and they cannot move out. Conflict transformation has three elements in it: creativity, nonviolence, and empathy. When I say that one has to move out of real life, it's creativity that we have to do that. In order to make it possible for one to be creative, one has to move out of the chain reality that we are in. Nonviolence, I'm sure you will have a chance to go to the notion of nonviolence later. And empathy, very important. Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is not the English phrase of putting oneself into one's shoes. I like the Thai phrase better. That is putting the heart of the other into ours. Import the heart of the other into ours. It means taking our heart out, then putting the heart of the other into ours, and then see the world from that position, which is very important. That's what empathy means. I give you an example of the Prophet Muhammad as a solution to the Kaaba conflict, because you are from Southeast Asia, and a lot of you might come from Malaysia, Indonesia, some and even the Philippines. Some of you might be Muslim or not. And I can do this in Buddhist and Christian, but time doesn't permit me. So with your permission, I will use this case of Prophet Muhammad's solution to the Kaaba conflict. The story is like this. When Muhammad was 35, there was a flood. The Kaaba was not like that at that time. It was like this, the picture here. And there was a flood. After the flood, all the tribes came in and want to repair the Kaaba. They finished repairing the Kaaba. The final task is to put this black stone into its proper place. And in Arab culture, not Muslim, is the Arab culture at that time, because at that time Islam was not born. The Prophet was born, but he was 35. The Prophet began to receive God's revelation when he was 40. So this is before Islam, so to speak. Anyone who can put this black stone into its place is highly honorable. So they started to fight. The 10 group of people, the tribes people came in. So finally they said, let's wait, see who into the gate, and then we let him decide for us. The Prophet came in. He listened to this. What he did is that he refused to make a decision. What he did was that he said he take off his cloak. He put it on the ground, and then he put the black stone on top of the cloak, and asked all the 10 chiefs to take off his cloak, so everyone could participate at the same time. And then we walk to the place and put the black stone into it. This is what conflict transformation is about. To reimagine a new reality, you become creative. You are nonviolent. You avoid, you prevent people from using violence against each other, because if you decide, this one is to chief A, what about chief B, C, D, E, F? Conflict might not be there, but it will be latent. So the Prophet did that, and that is what I call, a paradigmatic example of conflict transformation. Now the whisper. When conflict whispers, imagine conflict as a person. If the person conflict whispers his or her secret in your ears, what would be that secret message in one sentence? You can exercise on your own, but I will give you my answer. My answer is this. My conflict whispers. Conflict whispers into my ears like this. I am your treasure. Don't prevent me, hide me in shame, or destroy me with violence and hatred, but find better ways to engage me. You and your society will become stronger and become more peaceful. That was that. Sorry, I take a little bit too much of your time. I hope you will hear your own conflict whispers in your ears and make sense of what it means. Thank you, and peace be with you all.